Hello and welcome. My name is Jimmy Wikman, and as you can see, I'm coming to you live from my bedroom, which is also my office. And today we're going to talk about Atlassian Cloud changes. So let's start with the changes that are coming to the Jira Platform, the ones that will be applied to all Jira products. So the first one is the updates to the on-call feature in Jira, and it basically will provide an on-call section where you will have the on-call information in your Jira projects, which is nice. This way you can see who's on call if you have any problems with your Jira project. Links from third-party apps. So in the new issue view that we now all have, we now group them links from third-party products. For roadmaps, we can now see child issues, we can now assign issues to sprint, and we can manage dependencies directly from the roadmap. And this is actually very good, especially the one where you can assign issues to sprints. In the roadmap, you will now see the different sprints, and you can very easily drag and drop them. For team managed projects, you can now see you now have multiple workflows unlocked. If you are working with team managed projects, this is now going to make your life a lot easier. More for advanced roadmaps, edit issue description, another quality of life function, and that now means that you can edit the description field and the title directly from advanced roadmaps. And the fields that we have in the right column are now properly grouped, and you can also collapse them. So you will now have 3 sections. So you will have the pin fields, you will have your detailed fields, and you have the more fields. And this is actually very nice because it means that you can more easily see exactly what you want to see. Broaden your criteria when searching for issues in a project. Add an issue fields filter for summer due date, updated date, priority, resolution, and resolution date. And this is nice. I'm not sure why they haven't had this one before, but basically it means that you will have better search results. And you also have these standard for list view, I assume, and also from your project sidebar. Estimates for time tracking apps like Tempo, for example, will now display a field for it. So if you're using tracking apps, I haven't tested this one out yet. I should probably install Tempo and a few of the other time tracking and see what this one looks like. But it sounds nice that you can actually have that field present. Add custom fields to all your screens in Jira. We've had this for a while now. Basically, you can, rather than clicking every single screen, you can now assign it to all screens at once. Removal of non-paginated get filters endpoint from REST API v2. And this is one I think Atlassian needs to be better. This view here, for example, doesn't really show that this is a removal of features. Not sure if you have seen my article regarding the removal of functions from advanced roadmaps, but these pages need to be better at marking out removal of features because this is a destructive feature update. So what this means is that they are basically removing the non-paginated get filters, and then you will need to replace all the API calls with a new one. So instead of using the REST API 2 filter, you will need to use the REST API 2 filter /search. So make sure if you have any add-ons or if you have any integrations with the API that you check this one out. It's very important. How we create projects in Jira, you probably have seen it. If you haven't, it's basically removing the old way of doing it, and it's now a much longer process, to be honest, and it's also focusing a little bit more on making sure that people understand the difference between the team managed projects and the company managed projects. I personally think it's still a little bit too complex to create a new project. It's still too long, But it's nice that they not only use wording, but they also use color, so it's easier to discern what type of project you're actually creating. If you also have some of the other add-ons, then it get a little bit confusing when you first start to create a new project. So we're going to dive into that one into another video, but this one is also rolling out if you don't have it already. Create subtasks in the timeline view. We've had this one for a while as well, and it goes hand in hand also with the changes to roadmap. So basically what you can do is from the timeline view you can very easily plan out from your epics down to your stories. Horizontal scrolling for advanced roadmaps. Not sure if this is really that much of a new feature, but it's nice. So I don't really know why they didn't have it before, but it's good that they added, I guess. Jira Work Management is the next generation of Jira Core. Yes, if you haven't seen it, this one it's still a little bit thin regarding features, but it's a severe upgrade, a really big upgrade compared to Jira Core. Team managed projects get a new quick way to access the workflow editor, so basically another shortcut. Now, issue views. A link an issue by pasting its URL. This is also a nice new feature. So when you link an issue to another issue, you can actually, instead of searching for it, you can just paste the URL and it will actually create the link. If you have Insight Asset Management, then you can now import object schemas, more or less. And there has been some issues with it, but they are really working hard on doing that. That should make it much easier for you to take an existing schema of your assets and import it into Insight. And this is a really, really good feature that many people have asked for. So, trusted users, the UI changes for inviting new users. You can, instead of having someone having administration permission mask or permission, you can actually have a trusted user. So they will, instead of having the switch to function in your navigation, they will now see people instead. And this way they can very quickly come or move over to the people section, so you can actually help out with inviting new users. Project pages, they made some minor UI improvements. Now they will see a message powered by Confluence at the bottom of the screen, and this will take you then to Confluence. And the icon and the UI have been updated. I haven't checked this one out, so I don't know what it looks like yet. And also information about your pages, name contributors, and last modify. And they have been retained, but the labels have been removed. So just a small design update. So I'm going to check that one out later and see what that looks like. So Jira project reports, deployment frequency report. This one is for those of you who are using Jira to also track your deployments. So you will get more data, more information of your releases and how they work. So the report will show you then how often your team is deploying. And this one specifies how often you deploy to production. So again, I haven't tested this one out. I don't have it yet, I think, in my instance. So I'm going to check that one later on. And it's also going to show you if your deployment frequency is effective in managing risk, which sounds good, but I need to see how it's implemented. So if you are in a company managed project, then you go to reports and DevOps. And if you are in team managed, you go to reports and overview. So for code, Jira have now support for Bitbucket data center OAuth providers. So you can actually add new OAuth credentials for Bitbucket data center. Advanced roadmaps for Jira also allow you now to create issue when grouped by sprint or release. So if you're using a filter where you actually have grouped things, now you can actually still create new issues. In the issue view, you can now inline edit the subtask summary. Yes, it's been there for a while, so basically you just click it and you can edit the summary. Reorder the fields in your list. Yes, this one has also been out for a while. Filter by component and labels, been out for ages. Not sure why these are still here, since they are out, but I guess someone finds it interesting. Over to Jira Software and the focused changes that are for Jira Software. So, roadmap, I want to show issues with no assignee, and this one is good, so you can actually see which one you haven't assigned yet. So that is a good quality of life, a new filter that is added to it. Updates to how you create projects in Jira. We already talked about that one before. Basically, it is a new workflow for creating the new projects. When you're planning iterations or sprints, depending on what type of project you are running, you can now plan future sprints. And this one has also been out for a while. If you haven't had it before, it's something that you will like, I promise. So basically you can create and schedule future sprints. This one has been out for a while. It allows you to have multiple sprints. You can actually plan a sprint ahead of time. And this is something I use a lot. You should have 2 or 3 sprints open at the same time, or not open at the same time, but planned at the same time. So this one will then allow you to create the sprints and add dates that are in the future. And for team managed projects, you can now reopen a closed sprint. It wasn't available before, but for all of you who accidentally close a sprint prematurely, you can now reopen them again, just like you can for company managed projects. Jira Service Management also gets some very nice new features. So for those of you who have Jira Service Management Premium, you can now archive and restore your service project just like you can with regular Jira projects. I'm not sure how often this will be necessary, but it's a nice feature, and it's nice that you can actually keep your projects rather than deleting it. And for those of you who are new to your service management, you now get an improved experience in the coach. So you will get more information in the quick start to help you get along, which is actually very good because it answers a lot of questions for new GSM users. Outside the comments from email, this is awesome because now your customers or your clients no longer have to log in to actually communicate with you. So just like any other service desk, you can actually reply to an email and it will then create a comment. So you can continue the thread and the support communication through email, or the user can still log in and comment. So it allows for better communication. This one goes a little bit hand in hand with the fact that you can archive projects. So now you can also trash and restore. So if you accidentally delete something, you actually send it to trash. You actually have a grace period where you can actually restore it. So in this case, it's 60 days. Link multiple Confluence spaces to your knowledge base. This is very good for those of you who are working with many products, for example, where you have different teams writing frequently asked questions or guides, and even have problem management across multiple Confluences. So now you can link more than one Confluence space to your knowledge base. And this one is extended even further with the next one, where you can actually link not just within your own Confluence space, but you can actually link both cloud and server instances. And this one is going to really improve the quality of life for those of you who are sitting in the Confluence spaces and documenting these things. Besides getting a better start guide, you also get more help if you need it. So they have improved the help experience, so you can always click on the help icon and you can get more information. And this one is specifically targeted to your service management, so you should get more focused help that wasn't available before. Again, more information on, or the same information on how to create your projects. This one is the same that we already discussed. An improved view of knowledge base articles in the portal. I haven't checked this one out. It's always nice when people say that it's improved. Not sure if that is actually true, but I'm gonna review it and give you a little hint about it later on. Legacy automation shouldn't come as a surprise, but if you haven't seen this one before, it means that the old automation that was present in Jira Service Management doesn't exist anymore. So instead we have the new automation, which is an improvement, to be honest. But again, this is probably something that should be marked as a removal of feature, so it's more clear that this one actually is removed. And finally then, for Jira Service Management, insight in Jira Service Management, and this one has actually been around for a while, and what they have added now is that you can add attachments to your objects. And this is good, for example, for if you want to attach contracts or if you want to have guides or stuff like that, so you can actually attach a file to every object. Moving on to Jira Work Management, you can now create subtasks, or you have been for a while. You can now create subtasks in the timeline view, just like you can for the rest of Jira. And they are also rolling out that you can now create subtasks in the list view, which is also nice. Like the rest of Jira, you can reorder the fields in your list. We already discussed that earlier. And there's a new and improved board view. I haven't checked that one out either. Not sure if I have it yet. This one can be interesting to see, and also we're probably going to discuss later on what the value is of having a board for your work management, and also if they need to have the same functionality as we have in Jira, for example. And they can also filter components or filter by components and labels, just like everyone else in Jira. Moving on to Confluence, we can transform a page into a blog. This one has been presented quite a few times. Not sure if that many people actually use this. If you do, please sign off in the comment. But for those of you who want to do this, you can basically take any Confluence page and you can publish it as a blog. So you basically transform it into a blog post. One thing that is very nice is that they have an undo and redo function. So that one is going to roll out. So basically you have two new buttons and that you can now go back and forth in your editing history. So that one is very nice if you don't want to use keyboard shortcuts. Otherwise you can use the Ctrl-C and Ctrl-Y just as usual. And this one I haven't seen yet, fine-tune macro results while you set them up. And the way it's described is that you will have a right panel that opens when you are adding something like a new macro. So that one reminds me of, for example, how WordPress and other editors are doing things. So I'm really curious to see how that one works. Because before this we had the pop-up where we actually could edit or fine-tune the results that we wanted to have. So I'm going to come back with this one and see what it looks like. Share a page with anyone on the internet using a public link. Dangerous, especially if you're working in a company where they take security serious or information sharing serious. By default this is disabled, and probably for a good reason, or it is for a good reason, because you don't want to share things by accident. This one can be useful if you, for example, have a dedicated Confluence space for support. Then maybe you want to be able to have this for sharing external documents or external documentation. But basically what it is that you have a public link that you can send to anyone, and regardless if that person have access to the Confluence space or not, they can actually see that page. Hiding the like button on archived pages, not really something that was necessary, but it's a nice thing. So basically what it does, if you archive a page, you can no longer like it. You will still see the likes that were there, but the button to actually like is gone. Archive all nested pages in one action. So basically it is a tree archiving. This one is actually pretty neat. Rather than archiving individual pages, you can now archive whole sections. So this one is actually very good. And also, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can also return them all at once at the same time as well if you want to restore. Yeah, you can include all nested pages when restoring a page. And that one is also very important, because if you accidentally remove a whole section of your documentation, it's good that you don't have to bring them back one by one. And this one is only available for those of you with premium plan. This is also something I think should be marked out in these documentation or these release notes. Invite guests for external collaboration. So this works pretty much like for Teams, when you can invite someone externally and you can bring them into your workspace. And this is now a function also for Confluence, where you can bring them in as guests. So they have limited access, of course. So this one I am very curious about, but this one is an early access program only for customers on the premium plan. So it'll take a while before we see this rolling out to the rest of us. A notification email, like we need more, and we don't, but this one is also being added, rolling out. So you'll get an email with recommendations on what pages you might want to archive. Don't really see this as very useful. Maybe if you have many people working in one Confluence space and you have a lot of pages that are pretty much left behind, or they are half finished or something like that, could be good to get that one. But not sure if I think this one was a very important feature to have. Bulk archive up to 500 pages at a time. Well, this one goes probably hand in hand with the possibility to archive entire sections, a whole tree. So the question is then, how does this work with that feature? So if I have a tree with more than 500 pages, will it somehow not work, or will just a subsection be moved? This one is interesting. I don't think it's a very common use case, but someone should probably clarify what happens if I remove a tree with more than 500 pages. Emojis to your page or blog title. It's been there for a while. I think everyone has it now. It looks like it. And the same thing with the header image. Might seem silly, but they're actually very useful, especially if you have custom emojis. So you can actually more visually see your tree. We also get more information, help articles specifically for Confluence. So they are now expanding on that one. And when you click the question icon, you will now see more help than you had before. And we have view the pages you visited most recently. It's been out for quite a while. Take action quickly from the sidebar. It's also been out for quite a while. And then we have the trusted users. And we talked about that one before, that you can actually then go to the administration part without going to the switch to. So instead you will see something called people. And last on our list is Bitbucket, where the Bitbucket pipeline steps are getting a little bit more information. So now you can see CPU and memory usage for your builds, and you also get warnings if you are using an excessive amount of memory, for example, when your build is running. So there you have it. This was my first presentation of the Atlassian Cloud changes. I hope you liked it. If you didn't, please leave a comment and tell me how I can improve, except for getting better at shooting videos. I know I suck, but I hope the information you get is useful at least. Also leave a comment if there's anything in the Cloud Changes notes that you feel that you would like to know more about, and I will make some short stories for you regarding those. And with that, I just want to remind you to please subscribe if you like this kind of content, and also to click that notification button so you get notified when I publish more articles like this. With that, I wish you a good day and see you soon.